Whether you're a dad of a house, whether you're the president of a country, whether you're the CEO of a company, or you're the coach of a team, you must be convicted in identity and a way in which you want to do things.
Yeah.
So, and I think people follow leaders who are convicted. If we discipline, we're all going to be on the same page.
Sure.
If ill discipline isn't necessarily going out on the piss, whatever. That's not it. It's part of it, but I don't look at it that way. I'm just talking about the discipline to be the discipline to subject yourself to this collective. In my opinion, mental toughness is the ability to withstand all physical and or mental exertion. So I'm talking about whether it's internal and external. So the issues that I face at home or lack of issues that I face at home.
Hello and welcome to the Currie Pod. Yes, this is Keeping It Rugby with Kobani Bobo. And today, oh man, we got a show for you. We've got one of the brightest young brains in rugby in South Africa. Someone who's really nurtured young talent and has really come up into the system. And the one thing that he probably regrets is last year's Currie Cup final. Just 1 minute it took for him to see the other side of the coin. Who's joining me? It's Mziwakhe Nkosi, the Lions coach, Currie Cup coach. Lions, he's been at the Lions forever. I mean, the man is born in Johannesburg. Lions is through and through red and white. The man has got hands big as pans, as the song says. He will never drop anything. Mziwakhe Nkosi, otherwise you well, my guy?
But I'm good. Thank you for having me. Red and white is my color, man.
Yeah.
Went to a good school over the hill here.
Uh-huh.
Working at the Lions. So, my dress code has been red and white for a long time.
It's interesting that today you came with the opposition's colors that really took that one away from you. Let's jump into that.
I didn't even notice that.
Let's jump into that. I mean, we sit around and as rugby enthusiasts, we watch teams and we got expectations of what's supposed to happen. I mean, Lions has been one of the most successful teams. I mean, I remember growing up from the 90s, how I think the Lions, I always say to people, which they always take it with a bit of pinch of salt, that the 1995 World Cup was won by the Lions.
It was. Rudolph, Pienaar, Kitch, all those guys. There are quite a number of Lions guys who were in the team there.
Yeah, I mean...
Dr. Physio Speechley.
Henny Leroux.
Mulder. I mean, there's quite a number of
Gavin Johnsons. I mean, can we go on? I mean, James Small before he went to the Sharks. So I'm not the only one.
No.
Talk about it. I mean, the season that was last season, young squad that you had to build. I mean, I know you've been building with these players because you coached them in the juniors and you've been successful. How important was those players to sort of see their potential on the next level?
Yeah, Koban, I think last year was a really good year for the Lions, in particular the development part. When I say development, I'm talking about Currie Cup, under 19s and the 21s. If you looked at the 19s, won the 21 under 19 championship.
Yeah,
against the Bulls.
Stacked.
The 21s fell short in the final against Province, but a really good Province team. Then you look at the Currie Cup guys, all but winning the final, but the final, we can't let the final define us.
Sure.
If you look at the brand of rugby we played, if you look at the players who became names, who were no names, that's actually where the real success lies, isn't it?
Yeah.
In sticking to an identity, nurturing guys coming through. I'm looking at guys who came off the bench in the Currie Cup, starting in the URC and the EPCR now. So for me, there's a bigger win. Obviously, one wants a trophy, and you don't get too many shots at a Currie Cup final. So if you have them, you must take them, as you would know. But there's so many wins for me. I can't remember the last time a franchise went to 3 finals and the 19s, 21s, and Currie Cup.
Oh, well.
So there's a lot of good work being done.
Yeah.
And I think it's a matter of time before we see the fruits of that labor.
I mean, let's take it back now and strip it back to where it all started. I mean, when did you decide to pull the whistle and hang the boots?
I think, Bobs, I'm very much self-aware of myself. You know, very to the contrary, you know,
Yeah.
I think you try and work hard and you play, you know, first team rugby and, you know, you play provincial weeks and youth weeks and Craven weeks and Grand Comos and you'll end up at varsity. But I think you can also realize quite early when you're not going to be a Springbok. And, you know, I'd studied, so I needed to make a career at some point.
Sure.
And yeah, you know, as a matter of interest, I then went into teaching and coaching. I taught commerce, but it hurts
was
to
a
say
way in.
it was a way in for me, you know, and I love teaching. I taught for 8 years as a matter of interest. So, but it gave me an opportunity to coach. You know, coached at primary school, coached at high school, you know, and eventually coached the first side for 6 to 8 years, I think.
Talking about that, I mean, there's like one of the best coaches, and especially, I mean, nowadays, if you're a coach, you can just become a coach. I mean, the teaching side of it, of working with young minds and understanding how to sort of get the best out of a young person in the classroom, how has that sort of transcended now to the field?
It's interesting. I've just finished reading Graeme Henry's book.
Yeah.
And he was
A headmaster.
He was a headmaster for Kelston College. Was a deputy at Auckland Grammar. You know, as a matter of interest, he taught for 40 years close to 40 years before he became an All Black coach.
Wow.
You know, he only became an All Black coach at 62.
Sheepers.
If you think about it, where I'm getting at is, it doesn't surprise me that Jake White's such a good. Such a good coach, 100%. It doesn't surprise me that, you know, Eddie Jones is such a good coach. I'm not saying I'm those people.
Sure.
I'm trying to correlate and give you the relation between understanding people, understanding getting the best out of people, even when they not necessarily want to get the best out of them.
Yeah.
Understanding how to land ideas, and that translates to coaching, whatever idea that you have or particular activity or skill that you want to impart onto a player, understanding the pedagogy of how that skill is acquired by a player.
True.
So that was immense for me, understanding teaching, body language, you know, bringing across a message, you know, delivering, capturing an audience, because, you know, coaching is a whole lot more than run there. It's
not just the
it's a whole precisely. It's an encompassing career.
I mean, let's talk about it then. That sort of gives you a space now where you're leading young men and you got a chance to sort of lead these young men. What was his core sort of principles that guide you when it comes to your coaching? What do you sort of go to, which is your something that you know this gives the best strength out of you?
I think the biggest thing is I'm convicted on how I want to do things. You know, I believe in conviction. I think whether you're a dad of a house, whether you're the president of a country, whether you're the CEO of a company, or you're the coach of a team, you must be convicted in identity and a way in which you want to do things.
Yeah.
So, and I think people follow leaders who are convicted. You know, you can't be unsure and purring about who you really are. And
maybe we should kick.
You know what I mean?
Maybe we should run.
And it doesn't mean you'll always get it right, but, you know, just real conviction, real transparency, you know, just transparent. If there's cloaks and daggers, then we get to a situation where we don't really trust each other.
Yeah.
But if we're transparent, I think we go somewhere. And then lastly, relational, man. The coaching young guys, coaching old guys, coaching young guys, you know, traversing the space between different generations is challenging.
Yeah.
But relationships stay. Whether you're coaching 45-year-olds or whether you're coaching 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, I think relational. So for me, conviction, real transparency, and just relational. For me, that would really be my, if I had to wake up in the morning and you to cut me and say, what are my leadership?
What's your blood
traits? That's
what you'll bleed.
Yeah.
I mean, let's look at that. I mean, you have to have sort of ambitions for the individual and ambitions for the team. How do you sort of balance that between looking after the player? I mean, we all understand that you're on form. Sometimes you lose form. Maybe last year you were the star player and now this year is a bit difficult. How do you balance that development between individual and to a team?
Any group of people, we must differentiate between groups of people and teams.
Sure.
So teams is a collective thing. Groups of people are just groups of people.
Groups of people.
So one we've got to become a team. So the sum of the part has to be, and it sounds cliched, but the sum of the part has to be greater than its individuals.
Sure.
So for me, if the team does well, everyone wins, man.
Yeah.
If you look at the Crusaders, let's use the New Zealand example. The Crusaders teams won many a Super Rugby title. It stood to reason that many of them are going to become All Blacks, even the ones that are maybe a little bit vanilla.
Yeah, there's a lot of those who carried by the jersey.
Precisely, and I guess that's the whole thing: is we carry each other's goals, hopes, and dreams. For us to realize Kobani's dream of becoming a Springbok, as a group, we've got to do well. We've got to win. We've got to be successful. Because if we're successful, then all of us, it's funny, I heard a thing there about the Springboks, and it's nice because the Springboks are doing well, so we can really use them as an example. Is if we win, everyone eats.
That's so true. That is true.
If you win, everyone eats. So, if you're looking at a pro level, if we're winning, all of us get the endorsements, all of us get the sponsored cars. From a junior perspective, if we win, everyone gets recontracted.
Yep.
Everyone stays at the franchise. We keep the group for longer. So that's sort of, the sum has to be greater than its parts.
Oh, lovely. I love that. I mean, it's one of those things because it's quite easy to oversee what we're trying to do, and sometimes we focus on just the result. But how do you what values do you want to instill in players that sort of play under you or being part of the environment that you have created?
The word that comes to me is discipline, but not discipline in the manner that we think we're talking about. I think just discipline in doing what we want to do.
Sure.
The preparation to get what we want to do right. The ability and it can't be beneath you to not go through detail. So for me, if we discipline, we're all going to be on the same page.
Sure.
If ill discipline isn't necessarily going out on the purse, whatever. That's not it. It's part of it, but I don't look at it that way. I'm just talking about the discipline to be the discipline to subject yourself to this collective.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge as human beings we all face. Is how do I subject myself to the collective that this team wants? At times it might be in contrast to what I want to do, but subjecting myself to the collective.
I mean,
which creates team.
Yeah, it does create team. I mean, you deal with young players. How do you get to sort of influence their rugby intellect, their rugby IP, the IQ of them? Do you guys do a lot of teaching players how to read and how to analyze opposition? Because I mean, for instance, let's talk about like successful school teams. If you're in a successful school team and you're a fly half, let's say you're playing for whichever side, you've always had front football. You've always had all of this. There's things that you almost take for granted because of where you are. How do you get these players to sort of understand this knowledge? Is there a lot of like teaching players how to analyze game, how to chop the game up?
I think that in itself is an art. It gets to discipline, it gets to work ethic. One, as you say, if you look at our schoolboy systems, it's incredible.
Yeah.
We've just come out of the North Side, and the talent is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, right? It's talent. It needs refining as you speak. It needs nurturing, teaching guys to chop the game up, teaching guys to be disciplined in getting their game alive. So that's the challenge, Bobs, is that how do we get our players the love of the game? If you love the game,
no one needs to tell you to watch a game.
No. But it's on us to be the catalyst to create it for them and say, love the game, lads. And loving the game is watching footage, watching yourself, watching training, because the scene has changed since from when you were in a
I love what you just said. Because to someone else it could go over their head watching training. Because nowadays training is being recorded, it's being videoized,
filmed, it's been cut, it's been
There's
It's
drones.
drones. It's very different when you under 21s under 19s with Lofi.
No. We did hill sprints. it was who's the hardest, who can survive.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And our challenge is to prepare these guys for those guys who become senior pros, for those guys who become internationals. And again, I don't believe you'll go through that effort to chop the game up, watch footage, watch opposition, profile players.
If you're not going to care about the performance.
If you don't love it, man, if you don't care, you got to love that thing. And part of our job is to create, is to be catalyst, to spark that fire for those guys to love the game. And obviously we do that in different ways, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's these players who are already stars and they come into the environment, and then like everyone else, there's ebbs and flows. And then they find themselves struggling. Mm-hmm. How do you help a player sort of regain their confidence? If it could be either anything, because it could not just be on the field.
100%.
There could be something happening even at home, or even the places that they stay at. How do you guys identify that, first of all? How do you sort of bring the right people or the right noise that they need so that they can sort of see that as part of their growth?
Yeah, our setups are really cool these days.
Yeah.
Bobs, if I'm looking at, let's take our setup as an example from a Lions perspective.
Sure.
One, we've got to try and create an enabling environment for guys to be themselves, which is challenging.
Yeah.
Because I've just spoken about subjecting yourself to the collective.
Yeah.
But there has to be room for someone to be themselves. That's one. Two, I got to relational. So if I'm relational with you, then we can get into, and pick apart why you're not, performing at the level at which we require you to perform.
So it means you can be honest with them.
100%. And that's where the transparency comes in. Hey, Bobs, listen, bro, you're mucking about right now. What's the vibe? And if we can get that relational aspect going, I think we can get to the bottom of it. Then the people who are trained in this thing, we employ an industrial psychologist.
Sure.
To sort of get these oaks and help them build their careers, how to deal with pressure, how to deal with expectation internally, externally, at times how to deal with information overload. They're young players, they're student athletes. How do you deal with the studies, the balance, the some of these guys at Junior Springboks spend half the year in Georgia, Italy, Spain, because that's
camps.
In camps. How am I building my life? How do I compartmentalize my life?
Sure.
Then my biggest challenge is does the player know his game? I look at opening batsmen. Why am I not scoring runs? Why am I nicking off? If I know that my front foot, where my body's leaning, and similar to a rugby player, what was I doing right? I know my game. What am I doing right? What do I need to do to get on it? You as a centre, you spoke about if I'm on a good line early in the game and I'm on it.
Then that I'm
on it.
This could be my day.
100%.
Yeah.
How do I get a player to find his groove?
Yeah.
How do I get a player, and in particular in this day and age where there's systems and we're so prescriptive and players are so programmed, they don't really know their game. So how do we get them to know their games? Again, chop it up.
Yeah.
You see, I'm standing flat, man. I'm not in motion. Whatever the case is.
Get to touch a ball a bit more.
How am I getting touches on the ball? What type of touches am I getting?
Yeah.
We spoke earlier, come on a line. I can sense who's around me. I'm coming on a line, I'm clean, boys, I'm on it.
Yeah.
Get the ball in my hands, I'm on it, boys.
He's hot, boys, give him the ball.
100%. So, it's more complex,
Yeah.
It's getting people who are qualified to do it than us on a relational aspect from a rugby perspective, because like you said, it doesn't always happen on the field only. Sometimes it's off the field that impacts on the field.
With all the strategy and the ambitions of how you want to play, your coaching philosophy, how do you build that cohesion now for the team to sort of like start really understanding? Are you a person, when it comes to your coaching philosophy, do you look at the cattle, or do you say this is what I play like?
It's a hybrid.
Yeah.
You have to look at the cattle, what cattle you have. It's called team profiling.
Yeah.
So if I've got the Bulls team of old, Pedri, Dani,
You know exactly what you can
Bucky's.
get from
I'm
them.
not passing the ball, bro. I'm
Yeah.
coming around the corner.
Stay in a blanket.
Listen, I'm coming around the corner. I'm asking physical questions of you.
Yeah.
If you've got the current Stormers crop, these guys, they've got an ability to catch and pass, beat space, beat their man, keep the ball alive. So that's called team profiling. So obviously looking at the cattle's really important. But I believe in principled rugby.
Yeah.
So playing rugby on principles. If you've
Yeah.
got momentum, what do we do? If
Yeah.
you've got no momentum, what do we do? I think
Don't
it's
give it all
easier.
away. These other coaches are stealing.
I think it's
Yeah.
easier to play on principles,
Yeah.
as opposed to moves and plays. It's not to say we don't have, or I don't have moves and plays, but I just feel like if we based on principles, it's easier for a player to react to situations a whole lot more in a second nature vibe, as opposed to it's the move, it's the play, regardless of what happens in front of me.
Yeah, that I hear exactly that.
So if we train principles, if I'm speaking to a fluff bro, we've got momentum on the edge. What do we do?
What do we do?
My job is to teach him how to feel that momentum. But
Yeah.
we've got momentum, boys. Or we've got momentum.
Sit on it.
What do we do?
Yeah.
What's the vibe? What does staying on top of them mean? Whatever the case is. But
Yeah.
and then I think you can build something around that.
I mean, there's one thing that EV coach I've had, always they talk about mental toughness. What is your explanation of mental toughness? Because I thought back in the day, people used to think if you can run, if you can be broken down and get all of that stuff. What does mental toughness, when I say to you mental toughness, you as a coach, how do you implement, what do you think it is?
In my opinion, mental toughness is the ability to withstand all physical and or mental exertion. So I'm talking about whether it's internal and external. So the issues that I face at home or lack of issues that I face at home.
Sure.
My ability to grasp what's being done, physically apply myself, mentally apply myself, and then put myself in a situation where I can perform.
Yeah.
Because the mentally tough guys perform, right?
Yes. Consistently.
I can withstand the exertions, physically and mentally,
Yeah.
to put myself in a position to play.
It is quite an interesting part because why I step onto this, Murray Mexted used to say something like about mental toughness, and his explanation was that no matter what circumstance, I come through and I'm here.
And what are those circumstances or those exertions I'm talking about?
Sure.
It's dropping form.
Yeah.
It's, you see, this plan is complicated. It's, you see, the essence is driving us really hard.
Yeah.
Or has it driven me hard enough? How
Do I need to go do an extra?
Precisely. How am I compartmentalizing different aspects of my life, work, home, studies, businesses. So many rugby players have businesses.
Yeah.
My business not really doing well, but I've got
That could affect that.
Precisely. I've got to compartmentalize that. If we didn't really train well, how do I forget about it, or how do I take that into the game? Or we had an amazing week. How do I maintain that? So again, it's regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah.
Then bring it.
Just always pitch up. The same guy comes through.
100%.
Because don't bring that stuff that you have at home. We're not here. I'm not your mate.
Precisely. And then we don't have to be mates.
Sure.
I love to use rugby and corporate, or if you're an advocate defending someone who's about to go to jail.
Yeah.
That your wife is leaving you, or that your child is sick, bro, you gotta arrive there in front of the judge
and
deliver,
me.
bro. Because the result, the consequences of you not delivering is grave.
Yeah.
If you're an accountant, it's year end, and you can't account for half a bar.
Yeah.
That you're going through issues, or that you're not in the right headspace, or that you took it for granted and now you don't know how this appeared. Bro, the board wants to know, why are we half a bar unaccounted for? That's your job. You got to deliver.
I love that. It's your job. You have to deliver. I mean, there's things. I mean, you're dealing with people. You're dealing with players. I mean, how do you resolve, like, when conflicts sort of arise within the group? How do you manage those sort of scenarios?
When there's a lot of when there's a group of people, when there's lots of people in any aspect of life, even at church, there's politics.
True.
Even at church, there's fights.
Yeah.
Where I'm getting at is it's your family, it's at church. We fortunately, unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we're in the business of people.
Yeah.
Our job is to do the business of people right, so that they can do the business of rugby right.
Sure.
So it stands to reason that there's going to be politics. It stands to reason that there's going to be conflict. I believe, again, if we have a collective goal that we all subjecting ourselves to,
I can hear this coming out. Let the main thing stay the main thing.
I'm not even saying that. I really believe a group of people who got a goal in mind, who subject themselves to a collective, and if we're transparent, if we're saying, my man, this thing that you're doing, is it adding or taking away?
Yeah.
And it's not to say they won't be. Of course they will be.
Yeah.
How do we resolve it?
Yeah.
In the different ways to resolve conflict, but that conflict has to be resolved for the collective.
Sure.
Just add to the collective, man. Don't take away.
I mean, there's a lot that goes on in the game. I mean, you must have found that before the game, you've got a set plan, and you rock up, the opposition are actually hitting you with something you haven't seen.
Yeah.
How flexible and how much do you try and help your team to become that adaptable and agile?
I believe it's a skill to be in the box as a coach.
Yeah.
I really believe it's a skill.
Just I don't think I can survive.
So there are two different types of coaches. I believe the guys who watch the game like Sherlock Holmes. So I'm in it. I'm analyzing. I'm adapting. What are they bringing? What do I see? Can I see a play too? What are the triggers that they're giving me? Then there are coaches who live the game play by play. So they're in the play. Oh, good tackle. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. That's 80 minutes. I'm already tired just thinking about that.
And games are exhausting.
Yeah.
I think if it's been a good game as a coach, you leave the box, and it's for the layman. No one understands why a coach is exhausted afterwards.
Yeah.
But you live the emotion, you live through the game. But I think you've got to really watch the game properly, try and stay ahead and be adaptive. And I think that's a skill.
Yeah.
And I think as coaches, we've got it in varying degrees, because, I've got to take myself to that last line out. What call did I give? Am I on it? What were they trying to do? We've got to win the Currie Cup or whatever the case is.
Sure.
I've got to be in the moment, live the moment, don't get emotional, get the right messages on, etc., etc., etc. So that's crucial. And then
Yeah.
how am I? What's my state of emotion? What's my state of mind?
Sure.
So again, I think that's a skill.
It is a skill. I mean, I always felt that as a coach, because people see it as just on the field, but you have to look after these individuals. You have to look after the union. You have to look after everyone, and you still got your own family. You still got your own ambitions that you want to do outside the game. How do you replenish yourself? What do you use to sort of like fill up your cup? Because most of the time it feels like as if you're always sort of pouring it out.
Yeah, because I'm a big runner myself.
Oh yeah, seriously, I could tell.
Yeah. In the absence of not in the absence, but in the quest to try and fill yourself up.
Yeah.
So you can fill. I'm a big runner myself. We a mate and I, we run a running club.
Yeah.
And the competitiveness and the grind of running, it's getting to winter. Just
waking up and
just
commit.
someone to challenge myself, and in a different sphere outside of rugby. I've got a really good support system.
Yeah.
From a family point of view.
Sure.
From my wife is a hell of a supporter of mine.
Yeah.
Good family. So
And the new additions, they give
100%.
energy.
And then if I get to a situation where I've got friends who point to me, man, who don't see me as a rugby coach, but see me who I am first.
Yeah.
And the result on the weekend is they might be invested, but it's not the be all and end all.
Doesn't make you who you are.
I don't have a friend in rugby.
Yeah.
One of my friends is in mining.
Yeah.
As an example. So otherwise, is in a PSL soccer team. So we can share that, but we point to each other in different ways. The old adage of rugby is not who I am, but what I do.
Yeah.
So I not trying not to derive my identity out of rugby, which is challenging in our profession.
True.
Trying not to derive our identity from rugby, but just being a person. Rugby being what you do, not who you are.
Now you understand why I was Rasta when I was younger.
Yeah, you gotta find a different
Because
identity.
it is one of those things. I mean, you play at school, so I was lucky enough and in a way had the talent to be identified to play in teams as a junior. And then it started becoming like something that people sort of know me about.
It's all
and I'm like,
encompassing.
this identity is bestowed upon me. It's not who I am. Who am I without this game? And sometimes those are the kind of situations that you have to sort of almost level with the players too.
It's the biggest challenge that our players are facing right now. Is who they are outside of rugby and what they become after rugby.
Yeah.
Because rugby is nice. It's a community.
No, I mean, it sometimes feels like it's a sheltered space, right?
Of course, it's a protected space. You know, I'm always part of a group. I'm always part of something.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's part of why people join bowling clubs, right? Running clubs.
Yeah.
You know, why you have
sense of belonging, fellowship.
It creates a sense of belonging and fellowship. You know, and part of the reason why people are at church and do church activities and whatever the case is. So rugby for the longest time provides you with that. What are you outside of rugby? For our players' biggest challenge is what are you doing that gives you purpose after rugby?
And then, I mean, we have to talk about the generation that we live with now. I mean, there's so much. Social media being one of those. Just the ability to use sometimes even technology to get across. And how do you sort of now balance between their social life and what is expected of them as professional sports people and athletes to sort of balance that using what you have at your resources now?
The requirement to be a professional hasn't changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's a Springbok going to the World Cup in 2003 and it's a Springbok going to 2023 now. The levels change and whatever, but for you to become a pro, hard work, dedication, all those good things are there. They remain.
Do you because I understand that. I mean, the rhetoric that happens over the social media event.
But now the difference, Bobs, is that it's so much in your face the whole time.
Yeah.
How I'm perceived is in my face. How I want people to perceive me is in my face. How does that affect me? You know, I look at Instagram, see Bobs is always posting, he's working out, he's training. Is it a video? Is he really training?
Is he really training?
Or is it just a video?
Or is this the one that he uploaded?
And I'm just, and the perception. Again, I love what the guys speak about now is what's your reality, what's my reality.
Sure.
You know, what's the actual reality? Is I've put in the yards. I don't have to show the world that I've put in there. Other guys might be, but he must know that he might be. I've got to take confidence in the work that I've put in my own reality. And social media obviously is a different prism through which society views us and we view society.
Yeah.
You know, and we stuck to it so long. You know, if you look at the Apple, you know, every Sunday it gives you a notification how much time you've spent on the phone.
Yes.
Screen time.
Yes.
You know, and it's alarming at how much screen time. So how much are we consuming through different prisms? Through Instagram, through Facebook, through Twitter, through whatever the case is, whatever prism that you view the world, and then how does the world view you, and what prisms are you creating for the world to view you?
Ah, that's interesting. I mean, when you talk about rugby, I know, I mean, you're an avid reader. What are you reading at the moment? What is it that is filling up that brain of yours? And I mentioned at the beginning, one of the brightest brains and minds in the game. Do you consume only one genre?
No, not necessarily. I'm in between two books. I told you I'm in between Graeme Henry's book as a lighter read and as an educational sporting head coaching read, and then I'm reading Moses Kakane. Moses Kakane is an advocate.
Yeah,
an advocate. He started Pabasa, which is the body for advocates for primarily African advocates.
Yeah.
Controversially, he whether it's controversial or not, he was Jacob Zuma's advocate, and sort of his journey into, how he became an advocate, was a teacher initially to start off with, so
Yeah.
I can relate with that.
Yeah.
And a hell of an interesting book from a conscious point of view,
Sure.
and challenging my conscious.
Yeah.
And going around, the different types of clients that is served.
Yeah.
The thing about advocacy
Yeah.
is you don't choose your clients.
Yeah.
When you get briefed, and that's at the heart of advocacy, is that if I get briefed by attorneys, I've got to represent that, that client. So a lot.
Can't put yourself into it.
Exactly.
It's not about you.
It's about advocacy.
Yeah.
And it spoke a lot to my conscience. So the whole variety of things that I'm learning there. So yeah, I'm in between two books at the moment. I'm in between a sporting book and a really, I guess, a political and a law book that sort of speaks to conscience and speaks to trials and tribulations. How you perceived and how people perceive you. Learning a lot about your craft.
Yeah.
And how passionate you are about going about your craft in spite of what people may think or not think about you. So yeah, I'm in between two books at the moment.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because just to all wrap it up and sum it up, how do you inspire young coaches? Because everyone, first of all, everyone is supposed to have ambitions, and you're allowed to. Everyone thinks they're going to coach the Springboks. Everyone wants to coach all of those things. How do you inspire young coaches to sort of take this baton and work and really serve the game?
Lead, but not for self. But lead for the collective. I sound like a broken record. Lead for the collective,
which means that's your convictions.
Yes, and ambition is cool. And I'm sitting here, I've got my own ambitions.
Yeah.
I've got to try and not let it become demonic ambition. In other words, my ambition is at the detriment of the teams that I lead, at the people that I work through, the people that I come across. So, and then a very good mate of mine, we've got a hashtag time on the grass, man. Time on the grass, you got to coach.
Exactly. There's lots of people who are quite keen to just go do the interviews, and I think because like you said that you run, I love golf. That's my sort of and
it consumes you.
Yes,
it's challenging.
It's challenging, and it's something that there was a saying that I think it's Jack Nicklaus who goes, the proof is in the dirt.
Yes,
you know what I mean.
Precisely.
So that's
it's in how dirty your shoes are, and in how dirty your clubs are.
Getting that div.
Precisely, and 100%. And for me, if I can share anything with anyone, it's time on the grass. You don't know what you don't know. So I don't know what I don't know about coaching at the international level. So the only way I can find out is time on the grass. Yeah. I've got to get my whistle, tackies on, time on the grass, because the education and learning actually happens there. The games are results of processes.
Yeah.
And time on the grass. That's if I can say anything to anyone. Time on the grass, man.
Time on the grass, time on the airlines, time on the airwaves and everywhere. But this is Keeping It Rugby. I'd like to thank you so much for your insight and for leveling it up with us and giving that back, because your generosity might help someone else. I thank you so much, Mziwakhe, for pulling through and just having this time with you has been amazing. We want you to come back. I know we'll talk about the season as it sort of progresses, but thank you so much for your time.
Bob, thanks for having me. Appreciate just shooting the breeze, talking a bit of rugby.
Yeah.
And not just X and O's, but a deeper, just about beneath the surface in terms of rugby. So it's always cool to have these discussions and chats.
This is Keeping It Rugby. It's the Currie Cup. Please like and subscribe. Share with the people. Let's grow the community. Let's get people talking, because if we share, then we all grow together.